Welcome to our series on Kali Linux. In the last video, we talked about basic commands of Kali Linux and how you can use those commands to navigate your Kali system. In this video, we'll be learning some advanced commands and we'll be building further upon that. Let's get into it. Okay, so the first command is the echo command. Now, what we'll be doing is, first of all, start your terminal, okay, increase the font size on terminal so everything is visible. Now, the first command that we want to go for is the echo command. So I just type echo, and if I just type, so I'll start with quotes and I'll write something in between. So I'll just write something in between. And if I hit enter, I'll get the same thing back, right? Now, by itself, it's not that impressive. Now, what we'll be doing is we'll be writing echo. I'll write the same thing, something in between, okay? And then I'll be using the angled bracket, okay? Though I'll be using the greater than sign, which is the angled bracket, and I'll put the file name. So if I just write file, if I could spell right, file1.txt, and if I hit enter, you will see that there's no output. Okay, there's no output. As you guys can see, there is no output here. So if I actually type ls, there will be a file named file1.txt. Okay, there is a file named file1.txt. Now, actually, if I go and open that file, if I just open the folder, and if I just try to find the file1.txt, and let's open it, and yeah, as you guys can see, whatever I typed, so I typed something, something in between. You can see that exact same thing is now inside the file. Okay, we can try a few different variations. So if I go into my terminal again, and if I write echo, this video is on YouTube. And if I just use the greater than sign again, and I can give any file name. Okay, so I can just write, this is a file name with spaces .txt, and I obviously will use the end quote. I'll hit enter, and whatever I wrote on this side, whatever I wrote on the left side of the video will be sent to the right side, which is your basically file name. So if I type ls again, so as you can see, this is the file name with spaces.txt. That file already exists. If I go to my folder here, and if I find this file name with spaces, if I open it, you can see this video is on YouTube. Now, the echo command can be used for multiple things. Obviously, right now you might be thinking, okay, cool, it's not that impressive. The thing is, you might be using this inside bash scripting. In future, when we learn bash scripting, what will happen is you'll use the echo command as a print statement. In your different programming languages like Python, C++, Java, you have print, printf, and system.out.println, right? Similarly, what will happen is you will be using the echo command to print out something. At the moment, what we are doing is we are taking an output and we are sending that output to a different file. Once again, this is not just limited to the echo command. You can do the exact same thing. If I actually type ls, I get a list of basically all the files and folders, right? So what if I do ls, and if I send that input, basically if I send the input ls, I'll get some output, right? If I send that stuff into a different file, for example, I can just write list of all files.txt. If I end the quote, hit enter. Now see, obviously there's no output here. If I type ls again, here you will see list of all files.txt. Okay, now actually we can go into the folder. We can actually try to find the file, list of all files.txt, open it, and then you will see all the files that exist in this home folder. Okay, hopefully this command made sense. What we learned is, just to recap, echo as well as the angled bracket. Okay, you can take that and you can put those output into a different file. The next command is nano. Nano is a text editing utility in the terminal. Now you might be using Notepad or WordPad or text edit or Sublime Text on your Windows machine. In Kali, we use nano. Okay, so what we'll be doing is, if I just write nano, and if I just write, let's say for example, file1 temp.txt, so file temp1.txt, hit enter. Now I get basically kind of a editor on my screen. So for example, I can just write hello, I can hit enter, I can write multiple lines. This is line number 2, this is line number 3, and I can just mash extra stuff on the keyboard. I can just navigate using my arrow keys, as you guys can see. Obviously the mouse pointer doesn't exactly work, so the mouse is kind of useless here, but you can navigate using your arrow keys. Now you might be thinking, what are those options at the bottom? Well, do not worry. So for example, this is how you got into Nano, right? Once you edit your file, once you write in stuff inside your file, what you can do is to exit Nano, you have to use Control plus X. Okay, then it will ask you that, hey, do you want to save the modified buffer, which just means that, hey, do you want to save the file, yes or no? So I'll just type Y, and then it will ask that, hey, are you sure that you want to write this as your file name? So file temp1.txt, that seems fine to me, so I'll just hit enter. And now if I type ls, the file temp1.txt already exists. If I open the folder from right here, I'll be able to see the file, which is called file temp1.txt. If I open the file, whatever I wrote shows up here. Okay, now you might be thinking, Aman, why? Why do we have to use the terminal? Well, it turns out many times you will be you will be basically getting a secure shell into a machine, and you will not have the graphical user interface. That at that moment you just have a terminal, and that is why you need a command line utility which basically edits text files for you. Now you could have done the same thing using echo. Sure, you could have done the exact same thing using echo, but the thing is, echo does not allow you to edit files. So I'll open the same file right now, okay, and let's just see nano file temp1.txt. Now as you can see, I open the same exact file. That means I can delete whatever I want. So I can just backspace, I can delete this more or less if I wish to. I can completely remove everything, so I'll just hit backspace all the way through, okay. And yeah, more or less that's it. Now if I type Control X, it will again ask me, hey, do you want to actually save the modified buffer? I'll type yes, and it will ask me, hey, do you want to change the file name? I'll just hit enter, and that's it. Now if I actually open the file, it will have nothing inside it. It's just a blank file, right? Now it's also, you might be thinking, but wait, we are using graphical user interface to actually open the files again and again. Well, I have a solution. Let me just open the same file again. Let me just put some text inside it. Okay, I'll exit the file, save it. Now, to actually open a file, obviously you can just use Nano to actually see what's inside it, but that is very inefficient. In that case, what we'll be doing is we'll be using the cat command. So cat space file temp1.txt, hit enter, and now you can see exactly the stuff that is written into the file. You can see this is the output. You could have done the exact same thing for cat file1.txt, and you can see something in between, something that we already wrote in the previous command. It shows up, okay. That's it. The next command that we'll see is the WC command. The WC command is actually used to check how many characters, lines, and words are in a specific file. So what we'll be doing is, for example, if I write WC, and then if I just take the list of all files.txt, that file name, if I hit enter, you will see that it has 24 different lines, 32 different words, and 315 characters. Now we can verify it by actually opening the same exact file in Nano, and you can see there are 24 different lines, 32 different words. Okay, now a word is basically a character or characters defined on both the sides with a space. Okay, you guys know what word is. So, and the characters as basically in on itself are the character or the ASCII characters that you might see. A full stop, a space are considered ASCII characters. Okay, so if I make a change here in this file, for example, if I take this test and if I actually remove this, and if I actually save the modified buffer, and if I do the word count again, you can see the lines are now 23, the word count is now 31, and the number of characters have decreased. Okay, now the word command is usually used when you have a big enough data set, when you have literally millions and millions of lines, and you want to actually see how many lines exactly exist or how many characters are in a specific file. That's where you use the WC command. The next command that we'll see is the head command. Now, sometimes, as we discussed before, a file that you might have is literally consisting of millions and millions of lines. In that case, what we will be doing is For example, what if you just need to see the data? What if it's a CSV file which has, let's say, millions of rows, but you do not know what's at the start of the file? In that case, you cannot just cat out the entire file because that will take up your entire terminal. In that case, what you can do is you can just use the head command. So if I just use head, and if I write file, let me just write list of all the files. If I click, or if I just hit enter, what will happen is I'll see the top 10 lines in that file. Okay, what I can do is I can actually even give it multiple files. So if I just write file1.txt, if I write file temp1.txt and hit enter, I'll see all of those files. So the first one, as you guys can see, is the list of all files, and then you will see the first 10 lines. Then file 1 will show up the first 10 values. Once again, if it's just a single line, it doesn't matter. And then you will see the file temp1.txt file. Okay, that is the head command. The next command that we'll be learning is the tail command. Now, it is exactly similar to the head command, but we'll be getting the last 10 values. Once again, the scenario is the same. Let's say you have millions of rows, and for some reason, you need to get the last 10 values of a file. So in that case, I'll just write tail, and I'll just write, for example, list of all files.txt, hit enter, and it will give me the last 10 files. I can do once again multiple files. If I just write list of all files.txt, file1.txt, file1 temp1.txt, hit enter, and you will see the exact same format as the head command. Once again, how you use this is exactly on your discretion, but this is the tail command. So these are the advanced commands of Kali Linux that you need to know. Whether you are a beginner or an expert at Kali Linux, these are the commands that you will have to use daily. These commands are responsible for file creation and file manipulation. Now, obviously, as I mentioned in the previous video, you need to make sure that you are doing all of this inside a virtualized environment. In case if you delete something by mistake or you mess up a file here or there, you can have a backup of your main system. Okay, with that, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, put them down in the comment box below, and don't forget to subscribe to Tech Defense. With that, Aman out. Fearless.